Hello, welcome everyone. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm giving everyone a few seconds to join from the waiting room. I see people are joining right now, so thank you for being with us on April 6, 2023. This is our weekly update. And tonight I'm here with our patient navigation team, Catherine Small and Alison Bullitt. They're here with us. As you know, they're always available to take your questions even outside of this webinar. And together we're planning a lot of great materials and more webinars with more guests. And really great to be here tonight with Dr. Mary Cudkowicz. And so we'll provide a quick update on the platform trial, and also, we'll take your questions. So feel free to start typing your questions in the Q&A box. If we can go to the next slide. As a reminder, every week we get new people join the webinar. So, but as a reminder, the HEALEY ALS Platform Trial is a large trial where we are testing multiple drugs using the same common protocol and shared infrastructure. And the reason we can test drugs more rapidly and continue to have new results and new data coming out from the trial is because, again, by using this shared model, we can test several drugs using the same basic principles, but again, with more efficiency. So far, we have included a total of 7 drugs in the regimen, in the trial itself. Each drug is a regimen, and here they're labeled A through G. They are at different stages of development, and specifically right now, we are working, we're still working on completing all the data analysis for the first 4 regimens, A through D. We completed the enrollment for regimen E, but the follow-up is ongoing. And we are starting enrollment. We already started enrollment for regimen F, and we will begin enrollment for regimen G over the next few weeks. So again, lots of, a very dynamic trial where different regimens are always at different stages of development. Next slide. And right now, we are enrolling for regimen F, as I mentioned earlier, and then G will follow soon. In terms of regimen F, we right now have 26 sites that are currently active. So what that means is that every time we launch a new regimen, just like right now we have launched regimen F, we need to work with each single institution. Even if we have a large network of over 70 sites, we need to make sure that everyone at each institution is trained and all the administrative work has been completed for them to actually begin to enroll participants at their site. So all the sites are very familiar with the platform trial. Obviously, they participated in multiple regimens already, but in order to make sure that we have all the equipment, etc., and all the procedures for that particular regimen at each site, we need to work with them one by one, and we are rapidly activating them. So again, this is a very rapidly evolving list. And so if you want to have a detailed view of which sites are enrolling near you, please use the QR code or the link, or also call our patient navigators. Next slide. And that's actually a screenshot from our website. So if you use the QR code, you can go on this website and you'll see which sites are enrolling, and the contact information is also available there. And so if a site is active but not recruiting, that doesn't mean that they're not working on it. They're still working on it. They will be recruiting soon, and they're also working on the other regimens. Next slide. We have a number of resources on our website which are downloadable, including a number of regimen F resources, and so feel free to refer to them. Next slide. And if you want to hear more about regimen F, obviously you can join this webinar. We are always here to answer questions, but we do have a number of other webinars that were previously held and recorded. So on our website, for example, you can go to that link listed on the QR code to watch the scientific webinar about regimen F. I also want to mention that these slides that we are showing right now are downloadable. So if it's, I understand that it's obviously hard to catch the QR code like on the fly, but you can either watch the recording or download the slides, and then all these QR codes and links will be available there. Next slide. Now, in regimen F, like in all other regimens, but in particular in regimen F, we really are really focusing a lot of attention on biomarkers that we can measure in the CSF or cerebrospinal fluid. And in order to get that the piece of information, we need a lumbar puncture. And Dr. Maragakis is giving a great webinar coming up soon on the importance of these new CSF biomarkers that are really brand new and really important to really be able to learn more about ALS and really be more efficient in the way we evaluate drugs. So if you're interested in learning more about these new CSF biomarkers and why lumbar puncture is so important to develop new drugs for ALS, please go to that webinar. He also was on this webinar a few weeks ago, where he also gave a kind of a summary of that great topic. Next slide. And as always, please feel free to contact Catherine and Alison, who are here today. They're also available by email and phone. And I think this was the last slide, right? So we always try to keep the updates sort of quick so that we can take your questions. So Dr. Cudkowicz, I have a question for you. There's a question about regimen E in particular. Can you explain the randomized controls phase and the open label extension, or OLE? We recently contacted participants about some decisions. So do you want to provide an overview?
Yes, please. Thank you for asking that question. And first, I want to thank the person who wrote in for being part of regimen E. That is how we're going to determine whether that drug works or not in ALS. Selos, which is the company that makes regimen E drug Trehalose, let us know maybe about 10 days ago that they, because of the market changes, which are really awful for biotech companies, where they can't raise money, the stocks are all low, that they actually can't financially afford to complete the OLE. And by complete, I mean to continue to provide it to the participants in the study until we have the results, which is what we typically ask our industry partners to do. And they've tried everything. And so we actually spoke to our patient advisory committee immediately and got some feedback from them. And and then we spoke to our sites, and we tried to do whatever we could to find a way to make it possible. But they really just, the amount of funding needed was too large to find a fix for. So we are very sorry for that. And they're very sorry for that, because I know that's an important part of the study for the people in the study, as well as to help learn about long-term safety. So we are going to have to stop the open label extension on May 1st. We of course, they have enough funds, of course, because they put that fully aside for the randomized controlled part of it. And that's really important because that's how we're going to know if the drug works or not. So we're really asking the people who are still in that part to complete it. The last person is somewhere late in the summer. And then we hope to have the results in the fall. So for people who are in the open label extension, there are a couple options, and we want people to talk to, obviously, their neurologists and their sites. If people are not eligible for a trial, then there are some expanded access programs available, including one funded by ACT for ALS for the Trehalose drug. There's also some other EAPs. If people are still eligible for the platform trial, once they're done with the randomized controlled trial part, or if they're in the open label, they can try for that as well as other trials. So we're trying to find options, and many of the sites that are part of the NIH-funded EAP have offered to help other patients who are being seen at other sites. So we want to try to do everything we can to, again, thank the participants and help them with the next decisions. We are going to have a call, and hopefully participants in the Selos study have heard from their sites that we're having a call just for the participants on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, because we wanted to speak directly. Selos will be there too and answer questions, for the participants. Again, we're very sorry. That's not our goal for the platform trial, not to be able to keep the OLE until we have the results. But for this particular company and this particular drug, they just don't have the finances to complete it. It's an odd time in biotech right now. I do want to reassure that our, Calico and Denali are large companies, and this isn't going to be an issue for them.
Right. Yeah, there was a question about that. So does it mean that for regimen F and G, we're not sure about the open label extension or not? Can those companies pull out after 24 weeks for the new regimens?
I don't think that's going to be an issue with them. We've also contracted differently. Like you'll probably see our terminology is a little different. We're really treating it as one big study, the double-blind part and the open label, or what we now call ATE, or active treatment period.
Yeah.
Again, they're very big companies as opposed to small companies. This change in markets have been really hitting small biotechs, not just ALS, in every field, where even when they have positive results, their stocks stay low and they can't raise money. It's an unusual time for the last 12 months. So we've seen a lot of ALS companies really struggling to have funds. But the big companies like Calico, which is obviously owned by Google, and Denali, that is a big company, they're not having those type of financial crises.
So there's a couple of questions which I'm going to lump together since they're the same. Someone is considering to enroll in regimen F or G. Is it possible to choose which regimen?
Once they're both actively enrolling, then no, then people are randomized to one, to one of the two. Right now, the only one that is enrolling is F. And so if, let's say, you went to screen right now, that would be the only option. But within a month, we'll have sites that are providing G as well.
Okay. So can people know if they were on drug or placebo?
Is that question about the regimen E or in general?
To be honest, I'm not sure. It doesn't say.
So let's say it's for regimen E. So we can't, we don't know, and we can't share what people were assigned to in the double-blind period until after the study's over and the analysis happens. So that we still in the active part. There's maybe about 50 people is still in the double-blind period, and we hope that we'll have results in the fall, and then after that we'll talk about when we can let people know what they were on.
Yeah, there's a follow-up to one of your comments. You mentioned that the randomized control portion of the study is very important to be able to tell if the drug works or not. So somebody wrote, so does that mean that the OLE is not important for understanding the efficacy of the drug?
It's not as important. I mean, the gold standard is the randomized control period. Now, we learned from the AMLEX study and the Tofersen study that you can get confirmatory type data and longer term data from the OLE, but it's not as rigorous a study as the randomized control. So really, that's the most critical part. The open label extension is good to do for many reasons. Number one being to really provide it to the people who were in the study. Two is to get some long-term safety and some confirmatory type data.
Great. There's a question about unblinding. When will we unblind regimens A to D through D?
Yeah, it's a good question, and that I don't have the answer to yet. This is the challenge in a platform trial. So if this was a standalone trial, just let's say regimen A alone, and we were no longer using the placebo data, then we could tell everybody, right after the study was over what they had been on. Because we continue to use the data from the people assigned to placebo, it's more complicated in a platform trial. And we're trying to sort that out. We're having lots of discussions, but we want to make sure that nothing that we do would impact the integrity of regimen E and F and G, who are all using the data from regimen A through D placebo group. So it's a really good question. And believe it or not, there's nothing written about this in platform trials. So we're talking to other platform trial groups, regulatory groups, and we're trying to get an answer as soon as we can.
Sort of a similar question. Have you assessed the shared placebo group data from regimens A through D? Will that group of placebo data be used for ongoing regimens, or any learnings in terms of maybe reducing placebo ratio even further, or other learnings from the accumulated placebo group?
Yeah, lots of learnings, and we continue to learn. We are strongly recommending to all our industry partners that they use all the data from regimens A through D and E, and going forward, it adds a lot of power to the analysis. So, and also in the statistics, they can also weight it a little more towards the more current people, but you still gain a lot by using all of it. We're also obviously we're learning a lot about neurofilament in that group and other biomarkers, and I think we're really opening up kind of to people to come with us to questions that they might want to query the data for, but doing it in a way that maintains the integrity of that placebo group so we can keep using it.
Yeah. There's a question about the specific site. It says, I do not see U of M, I believe you mean University of Michigan, on the HEALEY study. And actually they are part of this study. So if you have any questions about the specific location or who to contact, please contact Catherine or Allison, our patient navigators. I just want to make sure we provide all the right information.
Miami and Michigan, they're both.
Oh, Miami. Oh, yes.
No, they're both. I don't know. They're not.
UM. I don't.
Not activated yet, I think, but
Yes.
working on it, and they will be for F.
Yes. Is it possible that any future regimens won't have placebo?
Nothing's impossible. I think there's still value to the blind, but it might be that we can decrease that percentage. The challenge and the good thing is that the natural history is changing in ALS as we get more treatments, but that does mean that having studies where your main comparison to natural history can have some biases and be hard to interpret. So I think right now we still need that, but the day that either there's stability of that natural history or we have good surrogate biomarkers, then I think we can really start to move away from needing to have placebos. And there's lots of activity, as you know, on this, trying to find good surrogate outcome measures.
So questions about F and G, they both have the same target. Is that a coincidence or any thoughts on that?
Not a coincidence, other than, that it's a really good target. And, it's an important part of the biology, this integrated stress response, and modulating it can impact cell survival and TDP-43 biology. So sometimes when there's a good idea, there's more than one company that are trying different ways to tackle it. When we first started the platform trial, when we made it a competition for the first 4 companies to be in the platform trial, because the HEALEY Center was covering half the costs, we did make a point then to pick 4 drugs with different mechanisms of action. But after the 4th one, when companies now apply to us and they cover the cost of their arm, we have not made that restriction, because we figure that the companies, if you have 2 or 3 companies with the same targets, if they don't use a platform trial, they're going to be doing independent trials, and they're still competing, and it's just less efficient, and they're using, it costs more people on placebo, and that that this is actually the good way when you have multiple companies with the same target. But we do have other companies applying to us, and we'll hopefully be able to announce an H, maybe an I. I was just thinking my alphabet, but we have a couple others coming.
Yeah. Will there be an EAP for F and G?
So it's a good question. We hope so. So we've really stressed that. So because neither F and G, the companies qualify for the Act for ALS because of the size of the companies, which again is very good for us for the OLE part, but not good for the Act for ALS. But we have spoken to both of them about starting an EAP after our first interim analysis, which is what we did for B through D. Is that once we're through our first interim analysis, when we know again that the drugs are safe, and then that would be a good time to start the EAP. So that's the hope.
Do you have any information about the number of people from underrepresented minorities who have participated in the trial?
Yes, we do. And I think I promised to bring that before when someone asked me that, and I forgot to bring that here. It's pretty good. It's not where we want it to be, but I can bring the numbers. I don't have them on the top of my head at another meeting. But we are working with a couple of groups. Well, Allison's doing a lot of that work, and Tambourine to try to increase, access. Allison, do you want to say anything about those initiatives?
Oh, yes, thank you. So we have between MGH and NEOS a large health literacy initiative, which focuses on diversity and research access or inclusion into clinical research. So there are a lot of multiple projects going on. We're working in collaboration with a lot of groups in the community, but really trying to identify and qualify the challenges for rural versus big city and many different categories. So more to come because there's a lot of focus on that this year.
Great. Yeah, there's lots of questions tonight. So technical questions. Yes, there was a mechanism of action scientific webinar on regimen F. We haven't had one on G yet, so you didn't miss it. So we will announce it as soon as we have it. We generally try to do it right when we activate, when we start enrollment. So that should be soon as well. But the one for F has been recorded and it's available. And with respect to that, somebody asked about the percentage of non-serious side effects that was presented during the Calico Regimen F scientific webinar, and the percentage was 7 to 10%. And so the question is, was that in a particular dose? And I just checked the slides, and as it said on the slides, it was combined. So the study is still ongoing. So it's an overall assessment. It was not broken down by dose. And then something on me, I apologize for starting the webinar before some people were able to join from the waiting room. We'll definitely make sure to wait more. I'm sorry, I thought I was waiting enough time, but clearly not. So thank you for letting me know so that we can wait more time next time. There's a question about a different trial, about the collaboration between MGH and neuroscience, the manufacturer of Prime C. Is there a trial for Prime C? Is there one in the US?
First, I'd say yes, we are definitely working with Alon and his team at Neurosense. Right now, they are doing a phase 2 study that is in Israel and does not have US sites. I know they're looking at other places in Canada and Europe as well. But we are definitely talking to them about the next phase of their trial.
There's a question about the NIH grant and the expanded access for Trialos, which is the same drug tested in regimen E. So we selected 25 sites. I can tell you MGH is activated. We are working hard on activating other sites. So that's only for people who are not eligible for trials. So if somebody was in regimen E or OLE and there was the OLE part was stopped, if those people are not eligible for the platform trial anymore, they could go into the EAP. I apologize for not being able to share yet the full list of EAP sites, but that will be done as soon as possible as we activate those sites. So we had a few sites they initially wanted to be in and then they declined. So that's why we try to really post everything publicly as sites are activated, meaning when we are sure they're going to participate. That should really happen soon. I do want to mention that all PIs, we had a call with the PIs who are part of the regimen E OLE, and I'm pretty sure that sites are actually contacting as we speak all the regimen E OLE participants to see if the Trialos EAP may be a possibility, even if that site is now offering. And I know several of us have already offered to take patients from other sites. So definitely be in contact with your site. And we have, again, the webinar next week on Monday for the participants. Anything you want to mention, Merit, about options for regimen E participants? EAP, yeah.
Well, again, I just wanted to thank the people who are still in the randomized controlled part of it for willingness to complete it, because that's so, again, critical for us to know if the drug works or not, which we have to find out, because it's really got an important science. And then for people who are in the OLE or are now done with the randomized controlled part, is really to talk to your neurologist and see what other options are for you. The good news is the enormous number of trials going on right now, and actually a fair number of EAPs. So I think there should be some good choices. If your neurologist doesn't know them, or you can always, again, contact Catherine or Allison, and we'll try to connect you with options.
There's a good question from an OLE participant in regimen E. This person is in the OLE right now. So should they stop the OLE as soon as possible to finish the washout and get into F or G?
I think that's an option. We're able to, or the company is able to provide it through May 1st. So I think that's a personal decision, and also one that maybe you discuss with your site, whether to continue till May 1st or stop it now, and again, what their status is for getting ready for regimen F. And again, we are doing everything we can to activate all the sites. I'm excited that we have 26, but we actually want all 72 of them activated. And I'll say, some of the things that are why is the site not activated? And there's never any excuse. Everybody wants to work really fast, but I think the introduction of 2 new drugs this year, which is a great thing, has actually consumed a lot of people's staff time and patients' time because of all the insurance issues. So we are hearing from sites, like you heard that some of them can't do the EAP for Treelos where they were planning to before, and that's because their staff are working night and day on insurance. And so that's a problem we all have to fix. I know the advocacy groups at IMALS and other are working on that. And we're working on that. We really need to not have people spending hours on that and people not getting access to these treatments in a timely manner. Because all our fighting to get flexibility, if the FDA goes to waste, if we can't actually prescribe and get the patients, the drugs to the people with ALS. So it's a problem we need to tackle together as a community. But it is having some ripple effects on the ability of some of the sites to get activated as fast as we'd like them to for us.
Good. So I think we took all of the questions. We will have also Silos on this webinar next Thursday. That's kind of, in general for the general community. If there are still questions that, you have between now and next Thursday. But again, for the participants in the OLE or Regiments E, we will have a webinar specifically for the participants on Monday.
Thank you. We are very sorry that wasn't our goal. We want the OLE always to go until we know the results, and then beyond if they're positive. Thank
you, and we'll see you again next Thursday on this webinar. Thank you.